And I would like to invite the next speaker. I guess we are talking with Denis Petrov. Denis, are you here with us?
Yes, Vladimir. Hi.
Hello,
colleagues.
Denis.
I'm here.
Yeah, perfect. Please take the screen and share your presentation, and we're all here.
Just a sec, please. It's coming.
No problem. We are precisely on time so far. So, yeah, just before you start, you remember in my presentation I mentioned about ARIS, something that we've been trying to adapt really that complex ARIS that exists in TRIZ to business problems, and we experienced difficulties. That's why maybe today we are on the path towards a new ARIS. That's why your presentation will be interesting to us. Thank you. Please move ahead.
Yeah, just 1 second, please. It's just some updates that I should done. So
No
I done before, but
no worries. We are still.
Let me do so to start share my screen.
You are from Kazakhstan, right?
Yes, I'm just working in Kazakhstan. So I'm currently, so let me start maybe from short introduction. So I'm currently country general manager at IBM in Central Asia. So responsible for business in 6 countries here, definitely including Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and also Azerbaijan. So just, huge territory with a big potential, definitely for business for IBM and for our partners here. Just a second, please. It should come, but sorry for that. I'm just some.
Oh, that's no problem. We are still very good with time. So
yeah, I will try to be very fast.
From IBM, you must be the best.
Yes. Sometimes we have an issue with within IT, especially if you're from IT company. Just.
Oh yes, I've been quite a lot with IT in the past.
It should work, but sometimes just when you face this issue, yes, it's coming. So it should come.
Yeah, it's coming. Very good.
See my screen?
It's there. Perfect.
Yes. So again, my name is Denis Petrov, and thank you for your time and for opportunity to discuss. And today I would like to share my experience and my practice of using TRIZ. And today we discuss, and I will show several examples that we have at IBM and with IBM partners and for IBM customers here in Kazakhstan. So definitely we all know that almost all TRIZ tools can be used to solve any business problem. And in this presentation, we will demonstrate several tools. So first one is simplified version of ARIS. So it's logic of solving non-standard problems. And second one is technique to resolve conflict properties in time, in space, in structure, and by contradiction. And to start with, so let me start with the contradictions and new terminology that we're using and we offer to use for business issues. So superficial contradiction, and Altshuler called it administrative contradiction. Contradiction of requirements, Altshuler called it technical contradiction. And contradiction of properties, Altshuler called it physical contradictions. Definitely for technical issues, technical conflicts, it's better to use Altshuler's terminology. However, in business case, we suppose that maybe it will be better to use our terminology. So let's start. Now, I'm going to present a final scheme of the logic to solve non-standard problems. So first, we formulate superficial contradiction. As you know, is always one parameter, and we designate it with A. It can be either what we want to improve or unwanted effect, but only one of them, definitely not two. In this case, in my presentation, it's improvement is shown. And if there is what we want to improve, then we identify what is the bad in our case, so undesirable effect. So thus we identify a contradiction of requirements. So we labeled this undesirable effect with anti-B. So next step, it's ideal final result, or shortly it's IFR. So both parameters A and B must be only good. And in our diagrams, it's shown as A and B. At the next stage, we have to identify the properties that system must have in order to turn bad anti-B parameter into a good B, I mean, to have improvement. Next, it's to see opposite property of anti-P, to see if a good parameter A keeps good. If so, we define correctly property P. If no, so then we need to choose different parameter P so that anti-P keeps a good parameter good, definitely. Thus, we have contradiction of properties. So we identified two opposite properties that the studied system should have. Now we need to resolve the contradictions of properties by separating these opposite properties in space or in structure or by conditions. And at the same time, we determine which of the requirements in contradiction with requirements cannot be changed and which we can change. So we can change this requirement by selecting and separating conflict properties, definitely. So now let's jump into the maybe most exciting part, into the practice. As I mentioned, today I would like to show three cases, one from IBM that I was involved directly, definitely, one of IBM customer, and last but not least from IBM partner. So let me clarify the problem situation. So when we are working on the projects, definitely we spend resources and money and time, and not all of the resources implemented in the sales. So we call it conversion ratio. So we have a pipe and then we have a sales. So if we have 10 deals in the pipe, it's better, definitely it's better to have 10 sales, but it doesn't work in real life. So sometimes as a company, you have to reject potential projects or lose additional revenue, or increase our cost because we need to spend more resources on the project. So absolutely clear that if you spend a lot of resources, the project will be unprofitable. So the question was what to do, how to be sure that all deals that we are working and my sales manager working on will be implemented in a sale. And let's analyze the problem. And no doubt that this is invention situation. And to understand the key issue, we started not from the TRIZ, but we started with a very, simple and clear 5 why method to identify what is the problem core. So why sales it's quite low? Maybe because of poor sales technique. So we have no strategy, sales strategy. We have no clear understanding of decision-making chain, or we identify decision makers by mistakes, or maybe we didn't know, clearly customer demands. So why sales technique poor? Maybe because we have, limited time for preparation. And the reason is we have a lot of big number of urgent tasks, as usually in big companies. Why we have too many urgent tasks? Maybe because of poor planning. So we're working on some cases and we have no time for right preparation. So let's back to a TRIZ. So superficial contradiction, it's low sales implementation projects. So conversion ratio from pipe to real deals, it's less than 50%, so low revenue. Type of administrative contradiction is undesirable effect. So we call it anti-B parameter. Then we identified contradiction of requirements, so A. So logic is very simple. To get big revenue, A, we need to spend a lot of resources for preparation and to make this project. and increase time for implementation, and it will be anti-B. Final result. So we have revenue growth. So we have 100% conversion ratio. So all pipes will be implemented into the sales without increasing cost for a project or for our resources. And then we identify contradiction of properties. So P and anti-P. So to get big revenue A, it is necessary to spend large amount of resources. So property P, which make the project more expensive and increase time for sales or sales implementation. And it is not necessary to spend resources, anti-P, to reduce project cost and time for sales, so B. So we have, clear contradictions. So we have to spend resources and we don't need to spend the resources. That is, by resources actually, our sales manager, engineers, pre-sales, architecture, etc. Everything that we have as an IT company. So as a next step, when we identify contradiction of properties, we are trying to apply resolution for contradictions. So as I mentioned, in time, so we, for our company, we defined maybe we have to spend resources in advance before receiving order from companies, from our customers. Or we have to prepare typical solutions for our customers. So we just split it industry into the different segmentation, like finance or mining companies or government companies, preparing solution up front in a space. So possibly to use virtual resources, especially in the time, this, let me call after COVID time, it's some logic to have virtual resources by conditions. So at the time the order of the solution is prepared for standard solution, we can do some kind of adaptation. So we can have a database or a platform with prepared solutions for our customers. And if any order will come, we will do some adaptation. And in a structure. So the most problems are common problems. So we can create a database with ready-made solutions, and our engineers will take this information and don't waste time for long time preparation. And as a result, in my case, we have a combination of resolutions. So definitely we created special team for virtual resources, not in Kazakhstan and not even in Central Asia, but in a head office in Europe. So we don't spend money for that resources, but we can use them as a technical engineers, but virtual technical engineers. And for our customers in the country, in the Kazakhstan, for instance, we have created platform with ready-made solutions. And if customer has a, demand or any need, he can jump into this database or platform and define his solution for himself. By the way, with this approach, we have reduced our cost spending by 30% and increased our sales by 70%. So it's, very good results for IBM in this region, and especially in Kazakhstan. So next case, it's case for our customer. So it's very well known Kaspi Bank in the Kazakhstan. So several years ago, bank decided to enter into the market on the country on the very competitive retail environment. So individual customers, and definitely the main income for the bank, it was from offering and sales bank products like loans and consumer loans and mortgage and etc. So to attract new customers and to sell bank products, bank has to spend a lot of resources, investment to attract these customers, and probably to decrease their margin, to be competitive on the market, because we have a lot of banks in the country. So the question was what the bank has to do with this situation. So again, this is an inventive situation, and we started with a superficial contradiction. So bank has to attract new customers and to enter into the new market. So it's A. Contradiction of requirements. So to attract new customers, bank has to spend resources, money for marketing, and maybe to decrease margin for bank products. So it means reduced bank profit. It's anti-B, undesirable effect. Ideal final result. So we're getting new clients. I mean, bank getting new clients with no jeopardizing of bank profits. So no spending investment or money for attract these new customers. And contradiction of properties. So P leads to A and anti-P leads to B. So to obtain new customers A, it is required to spend a lot of funds and money on marketing and reduce interest rate for loans, the main bank product C, which increases cost of the bank products and make business unprofitable. And there is no need to spend investment to attract new customers and reduce interest rate for loans, anti-C, and get profit B. So it's a very interesting contradiction of properties. And we defined resolution in time. So we offer to the bank spend one-time investment to attract some customers, and maybe or probably then customers will come by themselves, or customers will invite another customers. In a space, client come to the bank by themselves, since they can get only special service in special bank, in this bank. In the structure, bank clearly understands what is the customer needs and customer demand, and they make this offer to clients. And by condition, bank offers such conditions that customer cannot refuse. So probably some free of charge loan or no interest rate, or etc. So with this bank, what was done? We suggested to the bank, and the bank decided to spend one-time investment to purchase the main e-commerce business in the country. So they decided to buy sites or websites for cars purchasing and for real estate. So the main two platforms in the country. Thus, the bank gained access to the large client base with understanding clients' needs, clients' demands, and with help of analytics that also we offer to the bank, they started very fruitful personal offer to the clients for cars and for real estate. And currently, Kaspi Bank is the most successful bank in individual approach on this market, and they even were listed on the London Stock Exchange. So in capitalization, if I don't mind, so it's around $6 billion US. And even Harvard Business School considered Kaspi Bank example as a very cool model of market capture. So with the TRIZ approach and with our offers, it was done by the bank. And last but not least, this is situation with the IBM partner. So we have IBM in the country, and definitely we have a lot of partners, IT companies or integrators that resell and implement IBM projects. So the problem was, I mean, very typical on the market, and not only in Kazakhstan or Central Asia, but I believe it's worldwide issue. So company has to maintain and develop new business. But to do so, company has to find and receive new orders. But in the parallel, company or IT company requires to have positive cash flow or free money to keep employees, to pay salaries, to make a retention for key employees, to architects, to sales, and other expenses. So if there is no free money in the company, so it's not possible to obtain additional projects, and no additional investment possibly for this company. So how to be, what company has to do, or CEO of the company. So again, this is an inventive situation, and we started analyzing with a RIZ approach. So superficial contradiction. So company has to find and implement new project. It's A. Contradiction of requirements. So business development is supported by new projects, definitely A. And this requires stable cash flow or free money and investment for resource retention. However, company doesn't have this free money and investment. So it's anti-B. Ideal final results. So stable growth and a lot of new projects for the company without additional cost for technical resources or resources for project implementation. And contradiction of properties. P leads to A and anti-P leads to B. So to obtain new projects A, it is required to increase significantly number of engineers or resources and sales manager C, which increases the cost for a company for any projects. However, cost decrease or B required limited number of engineers or any other resources. So again, we need resources or as a company, or we don't need the resources. So how we defined resolution for this contradiction? So in a time, so probably resources will be allocated for only specific projects. So or company wants the projects or already received some prepayment. So in a space, we can use resources from other companies exactly for a specific project, or we can create joint venture or partnership or something else. In a structure, so again, like with IBM example, we can use virtual resources, and we can with post-COVID situation, we can receive orders through the video or video conferencing, and we can offer solutions through the video or any remote tools that we use in the company. And by condition, so company allocate resources only with a special condition, or prepayment, or any other things that will be very, clear for company. And in this case, we use combination of different resolutions for our partner. So they created partnership with other partners. So they decided to have only sales managers, sales resources. And in case of project implementation, or they will invite different partners to make this implementation for customers. So basically, that's it from my side. I would be happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
A very interesting presentation. And I first probably start with a question. First question, is it so that banks in Kazakhstan are allowed to enter retail and so on? Because here in the Netherlands, banks have very strict limitations. Like even large banks may not afford to go to retail because it's considered high risks.
Exactly, it's a high risk also in the country, in Kazakhstan. However, if you have bank licenses, you can, easily invest into the market and trying to attract new customers. So it was not the case for the bank. So it was a risk just in spend investment with zero effect. But with the right strategy, bank decided to take this risk, right, and to enter to the market.
Yes. The second question would be that it's not a question, but more a command. Is that it looks like you are, with this approach, like a logical resolution of a problem, you are creating a sort of algebra of inventive problem solving, right?
Probably yes. For a business, we're trying to to define very simple, and simplification is is the core, right? Very simple solutions that we don't need to spend a lot of time. Honestly, at IBM, we have design thinking, theory of constraints, Six Sigma, and different tools. It's massive number of tools, but all of them we need to spend a lot of time. With a RIZ or TRIZ approach, we just spend a couple of hours to define the core problem, core contradiction, and then we have a tool how to define the resolution. That's what we are doing actually.
And the last question from my side, I could ask 100 questions, but I limit myself. At the end, for problem solving, for resolution of your conflict, you're using 4 separation principles. But this is a limited number of directions of strategies. There are more. Why do you limit yourself only to 4?
So after short analysis, we define maybe these 4. It will cover maybe 80% of our conflicts, contradictions. definitely, I mean, we can increase number of solutions, but we will need more time for that, and probably it will bring, it will be effective for us. So it's let me call that it's next option and next steps, because we just started right with this approach. So definitely we can use different tools and different approaches.
So perhaps there might be an assumption that these 4 separation principles cover the most strong solutions also.
Exactly.
But statistics still required.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So there are questions from Victor Fay. Why do you suggest using the 5 whys approach while there are other more effective tools for getting into the causes of the problem, such as cause-effect chain analysis or RC+?
Yes, exactly. So again, because of simplification, when we start discussion about with my colleagues, with my engineers, and within my team about a problem, so we understand, differently the core of the problem. So in our company, we agreed to use very simple 5 why method, to define the core issue or core problem, and then to start resolution with a core understanding. That is our approach. I fully agree that you can use, different tools and TOC and any others, but in our experience, we use this one. So it's very simple.
Okay, thank you. From Richard, for me, this sounds like a combination of function analysis, as in the 5 functions, positive, negative, and separation of physical properties in arrays, or do I take a wrong conclusion? For example, A, my anti-B, maybe subsystem, supersystem, and standard inventives in business trees is an alternative.
So it's a good question. Probably yes. I can just tell only from my experience and what works and what doesn't work in my cases. But I agree with Richard that we can use any other approaches.
All right. From If, how to find systematically the P factor?
That's a very good question. So P factor is a property, right?
Yeah.
So, and when you define, contradiction of properties, so it's not very simple in our case to define contradiction of properties for a business issue. Exactly in my experience. So, but if you define contradiction of properties, so and what you want to achieve with A or anti-B, it's quite easily to do so, just to discuss and to brainstorm within the team. That is what we have done within my company.
Okay. From Richard, I see all those you mentioned are indeed costly. I like your findings that TRIZ a cost-efficient approach. Well, that's mostly comment.
Yes, thanks.
From Bin Han, in fact, we can use the logic of arrays to generate the ideas faster. In the real problem, time should be considered as costs.
Absolutely agree. So it's not a question, right? So it's common comment. So I fully agree. Because we're limited in time, and IBM is, so we have a lot of business rules and policies, and to define or implement something new, as it was mentioned today, to implement some innovation, you have to, bring a lot of walls in big companies, in enterprise. So time, it's number one, and that is why we use simplify logic of arrays.
Yeah, thank you. And the final question from Victor Fay is, okay, that's a good question. Brainstorming is much simpler than TRIZ. Why bother with a letter?
Again, Victor, from my experience, with brainstorming, we also, we usually jump into the psychological inertia. So we are offering something from our experience. And in my case, because in my team, we all from IT companies with IT backgrounds. So we are offering, very quite often used solutions. And in these new cases, I wanted to implement something new, to create some innovation, to bring some innovation into the team. So that is why we still use brainstorming, but we decided to a little bit switch onto the TRIZ and arrays logic.
So it's a little step ahead.
I hope so. But I mean, with our results, it's definitely a step ahead. Yes.
Well, with the results, it is definitely yes. Okay,
There is
Denise.
no result. I mean, yours it's that, right? So that is why it's so important for results.
Absolutely. Okay, Richard also mentions very interesting brainstorm versus TRIZ. Let's discuss over a bit. Sure, Richard, we will do definitely very soon. Okay, Denise, thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. Okay.